I never thought I'd be grateful for the day my wife handed me divorce papers at my own birthday party. In front of everyone, her wealthy friends, her ice cold mother, and the man she was already planning to replace me with, Eleanor Whitmore stood under those expensive string lights and told the world she was setting me free. She made jokes about me retiring early from trying to fit into her world. People laughed, some even applauded. They all thought they were watching a poor black mechanic get what he deserved, a graceful exit from a life he never belonged in. What they didn't know was that while Eleanor was performing her grand finale, I had over $1 million saved in accounts she never knew existed. 5 years of silence, 5 years of discipline, 5 years of letting her think I had nothing while I built everything in secret. And when she finally discovered the truth, it was already too late. If you're watching this, subscribe and tell me where you're watching. From, I want to know if you've ever had to stay quiet while someone underestimated you. I never thought I'd be grateful for grease under my fingernails. The morning light came through the garage windows in dusty beams. I was elbow deep in a '67 Mustang engine, replacing gaskets that should have been changed 10 years ago. My hands moved steady. They always did. Frank always said that's what made me good at this. I didn't rush, didn't panic, didn't need to prove anything to the metal. Marcus, you got a minute? I looked up. Frank stood in the doorway of his office, coffee cup in one hand, reading glasses pushed up on his forehead. He'd owned this garage for 30 years, taught me everything worth knowing about engines and a few things about life I wish I'd learned sooner. What's up? Your wife called again? I straightened, wiping my hands on a rag. What did she want? Same thing. Wants to know what time you'll be home. Said something about party preparations. Frank's face was careful, neutral. He'd met Eleanor exactly twice in 5 years. Both times, she'd looked around his garage like she was touring a prison. I'll call her back. Marcus, Frank set his coffee down. You don't gotta explain nothing to me, but I've been watching you these past few weeks. You got that look. What look? The look a man gets when he's made peace with something hard. I didn't answer. Couldn't, really. Frank saw too much. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Eleanor. Again. The caterers need access to the kitchen by 3. Where are you? I typed back. Work. Home by 5. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. This party was your idea, Marcus. The least you could do is be present. I almost laughed. My idea. Right. 2 weeks ago, Eleanor announced she was throwing me a birthday party. She said it like she was doing me a favor, like I'd been begging for it. I hadn't asked for anything. I never did. You good? Frank was watching me. Yeah, just gotta leave a little early today. The party, the party. Frank nodded slow. Well, happy birthday, son. 32's a good age. Old enough to know better, young enough to do something about it. I smiled despite everything. Thanks, Frank. You need anything? You call me. Don't matter what time. I will. But we both knew I wouldn't. By 4:30, I was pulling into the circular driveway of the Whitmore estate. That's what everyone called it. The Whitmore estate. Never the Hale house. Never our home. 5 years of marriage, and I was still just a guest who'd overstayed his welcome. The house rose up like something out of a magazine, all glass and stone and perfect angles. Eleanor's grandfather built it in the '60s. Her father expanded it in the '80s. Her mother redecorated it every few years just because she could. There were vans parked everywhere, catering companies, florists, a woman with a clipboard directing 2 men carrying boxes of champagne flutes. I parked my truck around back, near the service entrance. Force of habit. Inside, the house hummed with activity. People in black uniforms moved through rooms with military precision. Someone was testing speakers in the great room. Someone else was arranging flowers the size of small children. Eleanor stood in the center of it all, phone pressed to her ear, pointing at things that needed moving. She wore white linen pants and a cream silk blouse. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a way that made her cheekbones look sharp enough to cut glass. She saw me and held up one finger. Wait. I waited. No, the Champagne Tower goes on the East Terrace, she said into her phone. Yes, I'm sure, because that's where the sunset views are, and I want the photos to look organic. Organic. Eleanor talked like that now. Everything was an aesthetic. Everything was content. She ended the call and looked at me. Really looked. Her eyes traveled from my work boots to my stained Dickies to the grease I'd probably missed behind my left ear. You're late. I texted you. Said I'd be here by 5. It's 4:40, so I'm early. Her jaw tightened. Marcus, this is important. Can you please try to... She stopped herself, took a breath, smiled. Never mind. I had Paul put your suit in the guest room. Please shower and change. Guests arrive at 7. Which guest room? The blue one. You know which one. I did. It was the room farthest from hers. The guest room was pristine, untouched. The suit laid out on the bed was new. Charcoal gray, expensive fabric, tailored. Probably cost more than I made in a month. There was a note on the shirt. Wear the blue tie. I picked up the tie. Silk. Italian, probably. The kind of thing her father wore to board meetings. I showered in the attached bathroom. Marble floors, rainfall showerhead, heated towel racks. It felt like a hotel. Cold. Perfect. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. The suit fit like it was made. For someone else. Someone who belonged here. Someone who went to charity galas and knew which fork to use for salad. I adjusted the blue tie. Looked at my hands. Even scrubbed raw, there was still grease deep in the creases of my knuckles. Evidence I couldn't erase. My phone buzzed. Frank. You still breathing? Me. Yeah. Frank. Remember what I told you about rich folks' parties? Me. Stay near the exits. Frank. And? Me. Don't drink too much. Frank. And? Me. Trust my gut. Frank. Damn right. Call me tomorrow. I stared at that last text for a long time. Tomorrow. Yeah. Tomorrow was going to be different. By 6:30, the house had transformed. String lights glowed like captured stars. Candles floated in the pool. A jazz quartet set up near the terrace. Everything looked like a dream. I stood in the great room, hands in my pockets, watching servers arrange champagne glasses in perfect rows. Marcus, I turned. Vivian Whitmore stood in the doorway. Eleanor's mother, 62 years old and looked 50. She wore a navy dress that probably cost more than my truck. Pearls at her throat, ice in her eyes. Vivian, you clean up nicely. She said it like she was surprised, like she'd expected me to show up in coveralls. Thank you. Eleanor's put together quite the evening. You're a lucky man. Am I? Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Of course. Not everyone gets such attention. There it was, the edge, the reminder that I was the charity case, the project, the working-class black man who'd somehow convinced her daughter to marry down. I better go find Eleanor, I said. Yes, do that. Vivian sipped her wine. Oh, and Marcus? Try to mingle tonight. Some of Eleanor's colleagues will be here. Important people. It would be nice if you could contribute to conversations. I'll do my best. I'm sure you will. I left before I said something I'd regret. I found Eleanor on the terrace, directing the placement of the champagne tower. She'd changed into a black cocktail dress, diamonds at her ears. She looked like money. She always did. There you are. She turned, and for a second, just a second, something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe? Or regret. You look good. Thanks. Is the suit comfortable? It's fine. Good. She glanced at her watch. Guests will be here soon. I need you to... Eleanor. She stopped, looked at me. Why are we doing this? Doing what? This party, all of it. Her expression smoothed into something practiced, pleasant. Because it's your birthday, Marcus. Because we haven't entertained in months. Because it's good for us to be seen together, happy as a couple. Are we? Happy? Don't start. I'm just asking. Not tonight. Please. She touched my arm. Light. Brief. Can we just get through tonight? I looked at her hand on my sleeve. When was the last time she'd touched me without it being for show? Yeah, I said. We can get through tonight. She smiled, relieved. Thank you. Now come on. I want you by my side when people arrive. But she didn't take my hand, didn't link her arm through mine. She just walked back inside and I followed. Like always, the guests arrived in waves, luxury cars, designer clothes, laughter that sounded like wind chimes, expensive and delicate. Eleanor introduced me over and over. This is my husband, Marcus. He works in automotive. Marcus is a mechanic, very skilled. Marcus, this is Catherine and David. They're with the foundation. Nobody asked which automotive company. Nobody asked what I specialized in. Nobody asked anything, really. They smiled polite smiles, shook my hand with limp grips, and moved on to talk about things I wasn't part of. Fundraisers, vacation homes, the new exhibit at the museum. I stood there in my expensive suit, holding a glass of champagne I wasn't drinking, feeling like a prop in someone else's play. You look lost. I turned. A woman stood beside me. Brown skin, silver hair, kind eyes. I recognized her, Denise Carter. She'd been at the house a few times over the years, always polite, always seemed to actually see me. Just observing, I said. That's a gentle word for it. She smiled. How are you holding up? I'm fine. Are you? I looked at her, really looked. She wasn't asking to be polite. Honestly, I don't know. That's fair. She nodded toward the crowd. These things aren't easy, especially when you're the center of attention for the wrong reasons. What do you mean? She hesitated. Nothing. Forget I said anything. But she'd said enough. At 7:30, Eleanor found me near the windows. She had that look, the one that meant something was about to happen. It's time, she said. Time for what? The toast. Come on. She led me to the center of the terrace. The jazz quartet stopped playing. Conversations faded. Everyone turned to watch. Eleanor raised her glass. Thank you all for coming tonight, she said. Her voice carried clear and strong. It means so much to have you here to celebrate Marcus. Polite applause. Birthdays are interesting, aren't they? They mark time, growth, change. She looked at me. They remind us to be honest about where we are, about what we want, about what we've become. Something cold settled in my stomach. Marcus and I have been on quite a journey. 5 years of marriage, 5 years of learning, growing, discovering who we really are, both separately and together. The crowd was quiet now, too quiet. And tonight, I want to be honest, about everything. A server appeared beside me, young guy, nervous. He held a silver tray with a single white envelope. This, Eleanor said, gesturing to the envelope, is about honesty, about clarity, about having the courage to name what's real. I took the envelope. My hands didn't shake. Eleanor smiled. Go ahead. Open it. I looked at her perfect makeup, her perfect dress, her perfect smile. That didn't reach her eyes. I opened the envelope. Divorce papers. The words blurred together. Irreconcilable differences. Division of assets. Petitioner and respondent. I folded them carefully, slid them back into the envelope. The terrace was silent. I know this might seem sudden, Eleanor continued, her voice softer now, almost kind. But sometimes the kindest thing we can do is set each other free. Marcus deserves a chance to live without the pressures of this world, to be himself, to finally retire from trying so hard to fit in. Someone laughed, nervous, unsure if it was a joke. I'm serious, Eleanor said. Marcus, you've worked so hard, you've tried so much, and now you can rest. You can be free, free of expectations, free of limits, free to just be. She raised her glass higher, to Marcus, and to new beginnings. Glasses lifted, clinked. To new beginnings, the crowd echoed. I looked at all of them, at their expensive clothes and their comfortable smiles, at Vivian, watching me with satisfaction, at the man standing too close to Eleanor, tall, white, smug. I didn't know his name, but I knew what he was. I looked at Eleanor, and I smiled. Thank you, I said. My voice came out steady, calm. Thank you for the clarity. Eleanor blinked. That wasn't the reaction she expected. I appreciate you doing this publicly, I continued. It saves me the trouble of wondering, of hoping for something that was never there. Her smile faltered. I turned to the crowd. Enjoy the party, drink the champagne, celebrate whatever you want. Then I looked back at Eleanor. You're right about one thing. I am free now. I set my champagne glass down, walked through the crowd. Nobody stopped me. Denise caught my eye as I passed. She nodded once, small, sad. I nodded back. Then I left my own birthday party, got in my truck, drove away from the Whitmore estate, and for the first time in 5 years, I felt like I could breathe. My apartment was small. One bedroom, kitchen barely big enough to turn around in, bathroom with tiles that had probably been ugly even when they were new. But it was mine. I'd kept it the whole time I was married. Told Eleanor it was for storage. She never asked what I was storing, never cared enough to visit. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and just stood there for a minute. Quiet. No caterers, no guests, no expectations, just quiet. I changed out of the expensive suit, folded it carefully, and put it in a box marked Goodwill. The blue tie went in too. Then I made coffee. Strong. Black. The way I liked it. My laptop sat on the small kitchen table. I opened it, logged into my accounts. The numbers glowed on the screen. Retirement fund, 847,392.16 investment portfolio, 312 445.89 savings, 89 227.53 total, 1249.65.58. I'd started saving the day Eleanor and I got married, not because I didn't trust her, but because Frank taught me that a man who depends on someone else's money is never really free. Save quiet, Frank used to say. Don't tell nobody, not your friends, not your family, not your wife. Money talks, but silence keeps you safe. So I saved. Every paycheck, every side job, every birthday check from my grandmother before she passed. 20% straight into accounts Eleanor didn't know existed. I lived below my means, drove a paid-off truck, wore cheap clothes under the expensive ones she bought me, ate lunch from home instead of restaurants, and I never said a word. Eleanor thought I had nothing, thought I was dependent, thought I'd beg when she finally decided to leave. She was wrong. I closed the laptop, finished my coffee, then I went to bed and slept better than I had in years. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls, 12 from Eleanor, 3 from Vivian, 2 from numbers I didn't recognize. I made coffee first, scrambled some eggs, ate standing at the counter, looking out my small kitchen, window at the sunrise turning the sky orange and pink. Then I listened to the voicemails. Eleanor's first message, left at 11 p.m. Marcus, we need to talk. Call me back. Second message, 1 a.m. This is ridiculous. You can't just leave like that. People are asking questions. Third message, 3 a.m. Fine, be childish, but you're still going to have to face this. Call me. I deleted them one by one. Vivian's message was shorter. Marcus, Whatever game you're playing, it's beneath you. Eleanor deserves better than your sulking. Call her back and handle this like an adult. I almost laughed at that one. The unknown numbers were reporters. Somehow word had already spread. Society page vultures, probably. I blocked them all. By 7, I was at the garage. Frank's truck was already there. He was always early. Inside, he had the coffee going. The radio played low. Oldies station. Sam Cooke singing about change coming. Frank looked up when I walked in. "You're still breathing. Told you I would be." "How bad was it?" I grabbed a mug, poured coffee. "She served me divorce papers at the party, in front of everyone." Frank's jaw tightened. "Public? As public as it gets. Made a whole speech about setting me free, about how I tried so hard to fit in her world." "Jesus." "Yeah? What did you do?" "Thanked her, then left." Frank studied me over his coffee mug. "You're too calm." "Am I?" Most men would be tearing something apart right now, yelling, breaking things. You look like you just told me about the weather. I leaned against the workbench. "Frank, you remember what you told me when I first started dating Eleanor?" "I said a lot of things. You said rich people don't marry down out of love. They do it because they want a project, something to fix, something that makes them feel good about themselves." Frank was quiet. "You were right," I said. "Eleanor didn't marry me. She married the idea of me, the story she could tell. Look how progressive I am. Look how open-minded. I was never a husband. I was a statement. And you knew this?" "Not at first. Took me a couple years to see it, but yeah, I knew." "So why'd you stay?" I looked at my coffee. "Because I kept hoping I was wrong. Kept thinking maybe if I was patient enough, quiet enough, good enough, she'd actually see me. But she didn't. No, she saw what she wanted to see. A poor black mechanic who needed saving, who should be grateful for the chance to live in her world." Frank set his mug down hard. "That woman doesn't deserve you." "I know. So what now?" "Now I sign the papers. Let her think she won. Let her move on with whatever life she's building with that guy who was hanging on her all night." "There's a guy?" "Oh yeah, tall, white, looked at me like I was the help. They weren't even trying to hide it." Frank's expression darkened. "You want me to—" "No." I held up a hand. "I don't want anything from her, Frank. Not explanations, not apologies, not even revenge. I just want out." "That's very evolved of you." "It's not evolved. It's tired." I finished my coffee. "I'm tired of being someone's improvement project. Tired of walking into rooms and being the only one who doesn't belong. Tired of pretending that love should feel like work." Frank nodded slowly. "Fair enough. So what's the plan?" "Work, save, live my life. Same as always." "And the money? Your accounts? What about them? Eleanor know about those?" "Not a clue." Frank smiled, actually smiled. "Good. Let her find out after everything's final. Let her sit with that." "That's petty." "That's justice." Maybe he was right. I worked on a Honda Accord most of the morning. Transmission rebuild. Tedious, detailed work that required focus. Exactly what I needed. Around 10, a black Mercedes pulled up outside. Expensive. New. Eleanor stepped out. She wore jeans and a white t-shirt, sunglasses covering half her face. She looked smaller somehow, less polished than usual. Frank saw her through the office window. "You want me to send her away?" "No, it's fine." I wiped my hands and walked outside. Eleanor stood by her car, arms crossed. She took off her sunglasses when she saw me. "You didn't return my calls." "No. We need to talk." "About what?" She looked around, at the garage, at Frank watching through the window, at my grease-stained work shirt. "Not here. Can we go somewhere private?" "This is private enough." Her jaw tightened. "Marcus, don't be difficult." I'm not being difficult, I'm being clear. You want to talk? Talk. She glanced back at Frank. Fine. Why did you leave last night? Because you divorced me at my own birthday party. Seemed like a good time to go. I didn't divorce you. I initiated proceedings. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. She stepped closer. Marcus, I know the timing wasn't ideal. The timing? But you have to understand, I've been unhappy for a long time. We both have. You can't tell me you didn't see this coming. I looked at her. At this woman I'd spent 5 years with, shared a bed with, made promises to. You're right, I said. I saw it coming. What I didn't see coming was you making it a public spectacle. I thought it would be easier, cleaner. If everyone knew at once, we wouldn't have to. You thought it would be easier for who, Eleanor? For me? Or for you? She flinched. Let me guess, I continued. You wanted witnesses. You wanted people to see you being brave, being honest, the strong woman setting herself free from her mistake. That's not. And you wanted me to react, to break down, to beg. That's why you did it publicly. You wanted everyone to see me as the broken one, the one who couldn't keep up, the charity case who finally got what was coming to him. Stop. Why? That's what it was, wasn't it? Performance. You performed the generous wife for 5 years. Last night was just the finale. Her eyes shone with tears. Real or practiced, I couldn't tell anymore. I never saw you as a charity case. Yes, you did. Your mother did. Your friends did. I was the interesting choice, the unexpected husband, something to talk about at dinner parties. I stepped back. But that's over now. You got what you wanted. What I wanted? Marcus, I wanted a partner, someone who would engage with my life, my world. You spent 5 years hiding in your garage, refusing to connect with anyone, treating every event like a prison sentence. Because it was. Because every single time I walked into a room with your people, they looked at me like I was the help, like I was lucky to be there, like I should be grateful. That's not. Yes, it is. And you know what the worst part was? You never defended me. Not once. Your mother made her little comments. Your friends asked me to explain my background like I was an anthropology exhibit. And you just smiled and changed the subject. Eleanor's hands shook. I didn't know you felt. You didn't ask. Silence. She looked down. The papers are straightforward. My lawyer drew them up. You're not asking for anything, so it should be quick. Good. I'll have someone contact you about picking up your things from the house. I don't have anything there I need. Nothing? Nothing? She nodded, slow. Okay. Then I guess this is it. I guess so. She put her sunglasses back on, walked to her car door, stopped. Marcus? Yeah? I'm sorry that it ended this way. You're sorry about the way it ended, not about ending it. She didn't argue. I watched her drive away, watched the Mercedes disappear around the corner. Frank came outside. You good? Yeah. That was hard to watch. It was harder to live. We stood there for a minute, two guys outside a garage, morning sun warming the concrete. You hungry? Frank asked. Starving. Come on, I'll buy you lunch. We can talk about that transmission. Frank? Yeah? Thanks. For everything. He clapped me on the shoulder. Son, you don't thank family. You just show up. Now come on, I want a burger. We went inside. Back to work. Back to normal. Back to a life that was finally mine. 3 days later, I met with Eleanor's lawyer. The office was downtown. 20th floor. Glass walls. Leather furniture. Art that probably cost more than most people's houses. The lawyer was a woman named Patricia something. Sharp suit, sharper eyes. She laid the papers out on a conference table like she was dealing cards. Mr. Hale, These are the dissolution documents. Eleanor has been very fair. You're waiving all claims to marital assets, which keeps this simple. Fine. You understand what you're waiving? The house, the investments, her business holdings? I understand. She studied me. Most people would at least read through the details. I don't need details. I don't want anything that's hers. That's very noble. It's not noble, it's honest. She pushed the papers toward me. If you're sure. I signed every page, dated them, initialed where required. Done. Patricia gathered the papers. That's it then. The waiting period is 60 days. After that, the divorce will be finalized. Good. Mr. Hale, can I ask you something? Sure. Why didn't you fight, even a little? You could have claimed something, community property at least. I stood up. Because I don't want anything I have to fight for, especially not from someone who already decided I wasn't worth keeping. Patricia's expression softened, just for a second. Well, good luck to you. Thanks. I left the office, took the elevator down, walked out into the afternoon sunshine. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Marcus Hale? A man's voice, smooth, professional. Who's asking? My name is Caleb Price. I'm a friend of Eleanor's. I was hoping we could talk. Ah, the guy. From the party? About what? About the divorce. About clearing the air. I think there are some misunderstandings. No misunderstandings. Eleanor made everything pretty clear. I know how it looked, but I want you to know, Eleanor and I, it's not what you think. What do I think? He hesitated. That we were involved before. Were you? That's complicated. Actually, it's pretty simple. Either you were or you weren't. Marcus, I'm trying to be respectful here. You want to be respectful? Don't call me. Don't explain. Don't justify. Just live your life and let me live mine. I just think. I hung up, blocked the number, kept walking. That night, I sat in my apartment, eating takeout and watching a game I didn't care about. My phone buzzed. Denise Carter. How are you holding up? I stared at the message for a minute, then typed back, I'm okay. Denise. I don't believe you, but I respect the answer. Me. Thanks for checking. Denise. For what it's worth, what Eleanor did was cruel. You deserved better. Me. Yeah, I did. Denise. If you need anything, call me. I mean it. Me. I will. I wouldn't. But it was nice to know someone cared. Another message came through. Different number. Eleanor. Caleb told me he called you. I didn't ask him to. I'm sorry. I deleted it without responding. Then another. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I keep thinking about what you said, about me never defending you. You were right. I should have. Delete. Another, I was scared. Scared of what my mother would say, what people would think. Scared that choosing you meant losing them. Delete. Another, I chose wrong. I know that now. I turned my phone off, put it in a drawer, finished my takeout in silence. The next few weeks blurred together. Work, home, sleep, repeat. Frank kept me busy with complicated jobs, engine rebuilds, electrical diagnostics, suspension work, the kind of stuff that required me to think, to focus, to lose myself in the problem until there was nothing else. Nights were harder. I'd sit in my apartment staring at my laptop, looking at those account balances. Over $1 million. 5 years of discipline. 5 years of saying no to things I wanted. No to new trucks, fancy dinners, expensive trips. 5 years of living small so I could be free later. And here I was, free. So why did it feel so empty? My phone, the one I'd turned back on after 3 days of silence, rang. Frank? Hey, Marcus, you busy tomorrow night? No. Why? My daughter's having a barbecue. Family thing. She told me to bring you. Frank, I know. You don't want to be around people. You want to sit in your sad little apartment and pretend you're fine. But you're coming anyway. Am I? Yes. Because sitting alone isn't healing, it's hiding. And you're not a hider. I smiled despite myself. What time? 6. Bring beer. None of that light stuff. Real beer. Yes, sir. And Marcus? Yeah? Wear something without grease stains. He hung up. I looked around my apartment, at the plain walls, the secondhand furniture, the life I'd built in the margins. Maybe Frank was right. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. The barbecue was exactly what I needed. Frank's daughter, Michelle, lived in a small house with a big backyard. There were maybe 20 people there, family, friends, kids running around with sparklers even though it wasn't a holiday. Nobody knew who I was. Nobody asked about Eleanor. Nobody looked at me like I was a story. I was just Marcus, Frank's guy from the garage. I drank beer, ate ribs, talked to Michelle's husband about football, helped Frank's grandson fix a toy car that had lost a wheel. Normal, simple, real. You smiled 3 times tonight, Frank said, appearing beside me with a fresh beer. You counting? I'm observant. There's a difference. Thanks for inviting me. Anytime. Your family, Marcus. Divorce. Doesn't change that. I looked at him. This man who'd taught me everything. Who'd never asked me to be anything but honest. Frank, can I ask you something? Shoot. How'd you know? Back when I first started dating Eleanor. How'd you know it wouldn't work? Frank was quiet for a long moment. You remember what you used to talk about before Eleanor? Not really. You talked about building things, about opening your own shop someday, about teaching kids from the neighborhood how to work on cars, about the life you wanted to build. Okay, then you met Eleanor, and all that stopped. Suddenly you were talking about her life, her world, her expectations. You stopped building your dreams and started maintaining hers. The words hit harder than I expected. A woman who loves you, Frank continued, she adds to your dreams. She doesn't replace them. Eleanor replaced them. And you let her. Yeah, I did. But now you got a chance to remember, to build again. Don't waste it being bitter. Don't waste it being alone. Waste it being free. I clinked my beer against his. To being free. To being free. We drank, and for the first time in weeks, the emptiness felt a little less heavy. I drove home around 10. The streets were quiet. My apartment building was dark except for a few windows glowing yellow. I parked, grabbed the leftover ribs Michelle had insisted I take. Then I saw it. Eleanor's Mercedes, parked across the street. She sat in the driver's seat, staring straight ahead. I walked over, tapped on the window. She jumped, looked at me, rolled the window down. What are you doing here? I asked. I don't know. Her voice was small. I needed to talk to you. Eleanor, please. 5 minutes. I looked at her. Really looked. No makeup. Hair pulled back messy. Eyes red. 5 minutes. She nodded. Got out of the car. Followed me inside. My apartment looked even smaller with her in it. She stood in the middle of the living room, looking around like she was seeing something impossible. You kept this place the whole time. Yeah? Why? Because it was mine. She absorbed that. It's nice. Simple. That's why I liked it. She turned to me. Marcus, I made a mistake. Eleanor, no, please, let me say this. She took a breath. I thought I was doing the right thing. Letting you go. Setting you free. But the truth is, I'm miserable. Everything I thought I wanted, everything I worked for, it doesn't mean anything without you. I set the ribs on the counter. You don't mean that. I do. I know I hurt you. I know I humiliated you, but I was scared. Scared that if I admitted I needed you, it would make me weak, make me less, and I'm so sorry. What about Caleb? Nothing happened, I swear. He was just there, paying attention when you weren't, or when I thought you weren't. She stepped closer. I was wrong about everything. About you, about us, about what matters. Eleanor, you can't just. I know I can't erase what I did, but maybe we could try again? Start over? I could be different, better. I looked at this woman, this beautiful, broken woman who'd spent 5 years trying to change me, and I felt nothing. No anger, no love, no hope, just tired. Eleanor, you don't want me. You want to not be wrong. There's a difference. That's not true. It is. You're not here because you love me. You're here because walking away makes you the bad guy, and you can't stand that. No, go home, Eleanor. Sign the papers. Move on. We both deserve that. Her eyes filled with tears. Marcus, please. 5 minutes are up. She stared at me, waiting for me to break, to soften, to give in. I didn't. Finally, she nodded, wiped her eyes, walked to the door. She stopped, hand on the knob. Can I ask you one thing? What? Did you ever really love me? I thought about it. Honest. I loved who I thought you were, who I hoped you'd be, but the real you, the one who served me divorce papers in front of an audience? No, I don't think I ever knew her well enough to love her. She absorbed that like a punch. Then she left. I locked the door behind her, put the ribs in the fridge, sat on my couch in the dark, and felt for the first time like the weight was finally lifting. The next morning started like any other. Coffee, eggs, the same orange and pink sunrise through my kitchen window. But something felt different, lighter. I drove to the garage with the radio on, actually listening to the music instead of letting it be background noise. At a red light, I caught myself humming along to some old Motown song. Frank noticed when I walked in. You look different. Different how? Less like you're carrying a truck on your back. I smiled. Maybe I'm not anymore. Eleanor come by again? Word traveled fast. I should have known Frank would hear somehow. Last night, she wanted to try again. Frank set down his wrench. And? And I said no. How'd that feel? I thought about it. Right. It felt right. Frank grinned. Good. Now get over here and help me with this Chevy. Transmission's being stubborn. We worked through the morning. Steady. Focused. The kind of work that made sense. You took something broken, figured out what was wrong, fixed it. Simple cause and effect. No hidden meanings, no performances. Around 11, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me. Hello? Mr. Hale, this is Patricia Brennan, Eleanor's attorney. What can I do for you? I'm calling because, well, there's been a development. Eleanor wants to contest the divorce terms. I straightened. Contest what? I'm not asking for anything. That's the issue. She's insisting on including you in the asset division. She wants to ensure you receive a fair settlement. I almost laughed. Tell her no. Mr. Hale, I understand this is complicated, but it's not complicated. I don't want her money. I never did. The papers are signed. Let's just finish this. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Can I speak candidly? Sure. In my 15 years doing divorce law, I've never seen this. Usually people fight over everything. The house, the cars, the furniture, but you walked away from millions without blinking. And now Eleanor is fighting to give you money you don't want. She paused. What really happened between you two? She decided I wasn't worth keeping. I decided I was worth more than begging. That's it. That's not it, though. Is it? I didn't answer. Mr. Hale, I shouldn't tell you this, But Eleanor called me at 2 in the morning last night. She was crying, said she made the biggest mistake of her life, said she destroyed something real because she was too proud to see what she had. That sounds like regret, not love. Maybe, or maybe it's both. Patricia, I appreciate you calling, but my answer is the same. No settlement, no assets. Just let me sign whatever I need to sign and be done. She sighed. I'll let her know. The 60-day waiting period ends in 4 weeks. After that, it's final. Good. For what it's worth, Mr. Hale, I hope you find what you're looking for. Thanks. I hung up. Frank had stopped working. He was watching me. Eleanor wants to give you money now? Apparently. You turning it down? Every cent. Why? You earned it. Community property laws. Frank, if I take her money, she gets to tell herself she did right by me, that she was fair, that she was generous. I shook my head. I don't want to be another line item in her moral ledger. I just want to be free. Frank studied me for a long moment. Then he smiled, slow, proud. You really grew up, didn't you? I had a good teacher. We went back to work. That afternoon, Denise called. Marcus, I heard about Eleanor's offer. News travels fast in your world. It's not my world. It's just the world. Are you okay? I'm fine. Can I take you to coffee? I promise. No agenda. Just coffee. I hesitated. Then, sure, when? Now? There's a place near you. Rosie's. You know it? Yeah. I'll meet you there in 20. Rosie's was a small cafe with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls, the kind of place that served real coffee, not 16 variations of sugar water. Denise was already there, sitting by the window. She wore jeans and a simple sweater. No jewelry, no pretense. She looked like a person, not a performance. Thanks for coming, she said when I sat down. Thanks for asking. We ordered. Black coffee for me, latte for her. How are you really doing? She asked. Honestly, better than I expected. That's good. How'd you hear about the settlement offer? Denise smiled. Vivian called me. She's furious, thinks you're playing games, trying to make Eleanor look bad by refusing money. Of course she does. For what? Or it's worth. I don't think that. I think you're just trying to move on with dignity. That's exactly what I'm doing. She sipped her latte. Can I tell you something? Sure. I never understood what Eleanor was doing with you. I raised an eyebrow. No, wait. Let me finish. She set her cup down. I didn't understand because Eleanor always chose the easy path, the expected path, the path that made her mother happy and her friends envious. You were none of those things? Thanks? No, I mean it as a compliment. You were real, genuine. You didn't perform for anyone, and I think that terrified her. Because real means risk. Real means you might fail. Real means you can't control the story. So she controlled the ending instead. Exactly. Denise leaned forward. Marcus, I'm not defending what she did. It was cruel. Public humiliation is never okay. But I think she was scared. Scared that if she let herself really love you, really be vulnerable with you, she'd lose the armor she's built her whole life. That doesn't make it right. No, it doesn't. But maybe it makes it human. I thought about that. About Eleanor standing in my apartment last night, crying. About her trying to give me money now. About all the ways people try to fix things after they've already broken them. Denise, can I ask you something? Of course. Why are you telling me this? Why do you care? She smiled, sad. Because I watched you at that party. I saw the way you held yourself together when everything was falling apart. And I thought, that's a man who deserves better, who deserves someone to see him. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you showed up to every event even when you hated it. I know you were polite to people who looked down on you. I know you loved Eleanor even when she made it hard. She paused. And I know you walked away without burning anything down. That takes strength most people don't have. I looked out the window, watched people walking by, living their lives, carrying their own weight. Thank you, I said finally, for seeing that. Of course, we sat in comfortable silence for a while, drank our coffee, watched the world move. What are you going to do now? Denise asked eventually. Keep working, keep saving, maybe start thinking about that shop I always wanted. Your own place? Yeah, Frank's been talking about retiring. Keeps joking that I should buy him out. But maybe it's not a joke. You should do it. Maybe. No, really, you should. She pulled out her phone, typed something, then showed me. My brother-in-law does small business loans. Good rates. Honest guy. If you're serious, I could connect you. I looked at her, at this woman who owed me nothing, offering help without conditions. Why would you do that? Because sometimes people deserve a break, and sometimes the right thing to do is just help. I took a picture of the contact info. Thank you, Denise. Anytime. She finished her latte, checked her watch. I have to run. Lunch appointment, but Marcus? Call me sometime for coffee or just to talk. No pressure, just call. I will. She squeezed my hand once, then left. I sat there for another 20 minutes, thinking, planning, imagining a shop of my own, my name on the sign, my rules, my life. Maybe Frank was right. Maybe it was time to start building again. 2 weeks passed. I worked, saved, started making calls about business loans and property leases. Eleanor stopped reaching out. The settlement offer disappeared. Patricia called once to confirm everything was still on track for the final divorce date. 2 more weeks, she said. Then it's over. Good. Mr. Hale, can I ask one last question? Sure. Do you regret it? Any of it? I thought about 5 years, about the good moments, rare but real, about learning who I was by learning who I wasn't, about everything that led me here. No, I said, I don't regret it. It made me stronger. Well, good luck with everything. Thanks, Patricia. I hung up. Frank called me into his office an hour later. Sit down, Marcus. I sat. What's up? He pushed a folder across the desk. I've been thinking about what we talked about me retiring, about you taking over. Frank, let me finish. He opened the folder. I had my accountant run the numbers. The shop's worth about 200,000. Equipment, property lease, customer base, reputation. I'll finance it myself. You pay me back over 10 years. No bank, no interest, just you and me. I stared at the papers. Frank, I can't. Yes, you can. You've been running this place with me for 5 years. You know the work, you know the customers, you know the business. This shop should be yours. But 200,000? You got that saved, don't you? I froze. How did you? Son, I've been watching you save quarters in a coffee can for 5 years. You think I didn't notice you living like you made minimum wage while married to a millionaire? He smiled. I know you got money. I don't know how much, and I don't need to, but I know you got enough. I didn't know what to say. Marcus, you spent 5 years being small in someone else's world. Now it's time to be big in your own. Take the shop, build something, teach some kids, make this place yours. I looked at the papers, at the numbers, at the offer, at the future I'd been too scared to reach for. Okay, I said, okay, let's do it. Frank grinned, wide, genuine. That's my boy. We shook hands, and just like that, everything changed. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. I didn't go to court, didn't need to. Patricia handled everything remotely. At 3:47 p.m., I got an email with the final decree attached. Marriage dissolved. No contest, no appeals. Complete. I was free. I sat in what would soon be my office, Frank's old office, and stared at that email. 5 years. Over. In a single legal document. I should have felt something. Relief, anger, sadness, something. But I just felt ready. Ready to move forward. Ready to build. Ready to be the person I'd forgotten I could be. My phone buzzed. Denise, I heard the divorce is final. Congratulations. You doing okay? Me, yeah, I'm good. Actually, really good. Denise, proud of you. Coffee sometime to celebrate? Me, definitely. Another buzz. Unknown number? Marcus, it's Eleanor. I know I shouldn't text, but I wanted to say, I hope you're happy. You deserve to be. I'm sorry I couldn't give you that. I read it 3 times, then deleted it. Not out of anger, not out of spite, just out of finality. That chapter was closed. That night, I drove to the garage. My garage now. The papers were signed, the money transferred. Frank was officially retired. I stood in the empty bay, lights off, just the streetlights coming through the windows. Tomorrow, I'd start making it mine. New sign, new paint, new vision. But tonight I just stood there, taking it in. A sound made me turn. Frank stood in the doorway. Thought I'd find you here. Couldn't sleep. Big day tomorrow. Yeah. He walked over, stood beside me. 2 men in an empty garage, looking at potential. You scared? He asked. Terrified. Good. That means you care. We stood in silence. Frank? Yeah? Thank you for everything, for teaching me, for believing in me, for seeing me when nobody else did. Marcus, I didn't do anything special. I just treated you like you mattered. That shouldn't be special, but I guess it is. Well, it meant everything. He clapped my shoulder. You're gonna do great things here. I know it. I hope so. I know so. You got the skill. You got the heart. You got the discipline. Everything else is just details. I looked around, at the workbenches, at the tools, at the space that would soon be filled with my dreams. Yeah, I said, everything else is just details. The next morning, I was at the garage before sunrise. Couldn't help it. I started by cleaning, deep cleaning, every corner, every surface, making it mine. Around 9, a truck pulled up. Michelle's husband, carrying coffee and donuts. Frank told us you were opening today. Thought you might need fuel. Thanks, man. Need help with anything? Actually, yeah, I'm gonna repaint the sign. You any good with a ladder? He grinned. I'm great with ladders. We worked through the morning, painted the sign, cleaned the windows, rearranged the waiting area. By noon, other people started showing up. Frank's grandson, a few regular customers, Denise with sandwiches. Thought you might be too busy to eat, she said. You're a lifesaver. She looked around. This is amazing, Marcus. Really. It's just a garage. No, it's your garage. There's a difference. She was right. By 3, the place looked transformed. Clean, professional, mine. The new sign read, Hail, Automotive, Master Repairs. Honest work, simple. True. What do you think? I asked Frank. He stood on the sidewalk looking up. I think it's perfect. I think you're home. Home? Yeah, that's exactly what it was. That night, I sat in my apartment with my laptop, opened my accounts. The balance had shifted, down 200,000 from buying the shop, but still strong, still stable, still free. I closed the laptop, made dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and vegetables. Ate at my small table, looking out my window at the city lights, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace, real, genuine, uncomplicated peace. My phone buzzed. Frank, first customer appointment tomorrow at 8 a.m. Mrs. Chen, oil change. Don't be late to your own shop. I smiled. Me, yes, sir. Frank, proud of you, son. Me, couldn't have done it without you. Frank, yes, you could have. But I'm glad you didn't have to. I set my phone down, finished my dinner, cleaned my dishes, and went to bed early because tomorrow was the first day of the rest of my life, and I didn't want to miss a single minute of it. Somewhere across town, Eleanor sat in her big house, surrounded by everything she'd always wanted, and felt nothing but empty. But that wasn't my problem anymore. That was hers to figure out. Me? I was exactly where I needed to be, building, growing, living, free. Finally, completely, absolutely free. 6 months later, I stood outside Hale Automotive at dawn, watching the sunrise paint the building gold. The shop had become something I couldn't have imagined, not just a business, a community. Every day brought different faces, different problems, different stories. Mrs. Chen still came every month for her oil change, but now she brought her grandson, Tommy, a kid who dropped out of high school and didn't know what to do with his life. I taught him how to change brake pads, how to read an engine, how to trust his hands. He showed up. Every Saturday now. Free labor, he said. But really, he just wanted somewhere to belong. I understood that feeling. The bell above the door chimed. Denise walked in carrying 2 coffee cups and a white paper bag. Breakfast delivery, she announced. This had become our routine. Twice a week, she'd stop by before work with coffee and whatever pastries she'd found. We'd sit in my office for 20 minutes, talking about nothing important. Just talking. You're too good to me, I said, taking the coffee. Someone has to be. She settled into the chair across from my desk. How's Tommy doing? Good, really good. He's got natural talent, picks things up fast. You thinking about making it official? Actually hiring him? Maybe, if he gets his GED like he promised. You're changing that kid's life, you know. I shrugged. I'm just giving him a chance. What he does with it is up to him. Still, it matters. She sipped her coffee. Speaking of chances, I have something to ask you. Okay. My company is doing a charity gala next month, scholarship fund for underprivileged kids interested in trades. I thought maybe you'd want to come. As my plus one? I looked at her. At this woman who'd become my friend, who showed up without agenda, who saw me as just Marcus, not a story or a project. Denise, you know I'm not great at those fancy. I know, but this one's different. It's about kids like Tommy. Kids who need to see that blue-collar work is just as valuable as anything else. You could talk about the shop, about what you're building here. Talk? Like a speech? Just a few words about your journey, about giving people chances. I hesitated. Marcus, you spent 5 years hiding in corners at Eleanor's events. This is different. This would be your story, your voice, your choice. She was right. Okay, I said. I'll do it. Her face lit up. Really? Really, but you're helping me write whatever I'm supposed to say. Deal. The next 2 weeks blurred together. Work during the day. Planning for the gala at night. Denise came over to my apartment one evening to help me practice my speech. She sat on my couch, laptop open, making notes while I stood awkwardly in my living room trying to sound natural. You're overthinking it, she said. Just tell your story. My story's not that interesting. Marcus, you built a retirement fund in secret while married to a millionaire. You walked away from wealth without a second thought. You bought your own business and turned it into something meaningful. You're teaching kids who have nothing that they can be something. She looked at me. That's not interesting. That's inspiring. When you say it like that, that's because it's true. You just don't see it yet. I sat down beside her. Can I ask you something? Always. Why do you do this? Help me, I mean. You barely knew me 6 months ago. Denise was quiet for a moment. You remember that party? The one where Eleanor served you divorce papers? Hard to forget. I watched you that night. Everyone else was watching to see you break, but I was watching to see who you really were. And you know what I saw? What? Dignity. Quiet. Unshakable dignity. You didn't yell, didn't make a scene, didn't try to hurt her back. You just held yourself together. And I thought, that's someone worth knowing. That's a low bar. No, it's a rare bar. Most people, when they're hurt like that, they lash out. They break things. They become smaller, meaner versions of themselves. She turned to face me. You became more focused, more purposeful, more you. That's not common, Marcus. That's special. I didn't know what to say. So, yeah, she continued, I help you because you're worth helping, because you're someone who actually does something with the chances you're given, and because, she paused, because you're my friend, and friends show up. Friends show up, I repeated softly. I like that. We worked on the speech for another hour. By the end, I had something that felt honest, real. When Denise left, she hugged me at the door. Quick, warm. You're going to do great, she said. Thanks to you. No, thanks to you. I'm just the editor. I watched her walk to her car, watched her wave before driving away. And I realized something. I was happy. Actually, genuinely happy. For the first time in longer than I could remember. The night of the gala, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror adjusting my tie. Not the blue one Eleanor picked, a different one, dark green. Denise said it brought out my eyes. My phone buzzed. Tommy. Good luck tonight, boss. You got this. Me. Thanks, kid. See you Monday. Tommy. You know I'll be there. Another buzz. Frank. Knock 'em dead, son. Make me proud. Me. Always. I grabbed my keys and headed out. The gala was at a downtown hotel. Ballroom with chandeliers and round tables draped in white linen. Maybe 200 people, all dressed to impress. But this time, I wasn't uncomfortable. This time, I wasn't pretending to be someone else. I was here because I had something to say. Denise met me at the entrance. She wore a deep blue dress that made her look elegant and strong at the same time. You look beautiful, I said. She smiled. You clean up pretty well yourself. I tried. Ready? As I'll ever be. She linked her arm through mine. Let's go change some lives. Dinner passed in a blur. Small talk with people who actually seemed interested in what I did. Questions about the shop, about Tommy, about teaching trades to kids who needed direction. No one looked at me like I was the help. No one treated me like a project. I was just Marcus, a small business owner, a mentor, a person. After dessert, the speeches began. I watched 3 other people go first. A CEO talking about corporate responsibility, a teacher talking about education gaps, a city councilman talking about economic opportunity. Then, Denise walked to the podium. Our next speaker, she said, her voice clear and strong, is someone who represents everything this scholarship fund stands for. Marcus Hale owns Hale Automotive, a repair shop that's become more than just a business. It's become a second chance for young people who thought they didn't have options. Please welcome Marcus Hale. Applause. I stood, walked to the podium, looked out at 200 faces, took a breath. 6 months ago, I was standing in an empty garage, wondering if I'd made a huge mistake. I'd just bought the place, put everything I had into it, and I was terrified. I paused, found Denise in the crowd. She nodded. See, for a long time, I'd forgotten what it felt like to build something that was mine. I spent years being small, being quiet, being what other people expected instead of who I actually was. Then, I met a kid named Tommy, 17 years old, dropped out of school, didn't think. He was good at anything. His grandmother brought him to my shop, asked if I could teach him something useful. I smiled, remembering. First day, I handed Tommy a wrench and told him to remove a tire. He looked at that wrench like it was a foreign object, didn't know which way to turn it, didn't know his own strength. But you know what? He tried, and he failed, and he tried again. Now, 6 months later, that same kid can rebuild a carburetor with his eyes closed. He can diagnose engine problems by sound. He shows up every Saturday at 7 a.m. because he wants to learn, because someone finally told him he was capable. I looked around the room. That's what this scholarship fund is about. It's not about charity, it's about recognition. Recognition that intelligence comes in different forms, that working with your hands is just as valuable as working with your mind, that every kid deserves someone who believes in them. I'm not special, I'm just a mechanic who remembered what it felt like to be invisible, to be dismissed, to be told, subtly or not so subtly, that you don't belong. But here's what I learned. You don't need permission to belong. You don't need approval to be valuable. You just need one person, one teacher, one mentor, one friend who sees you, really sees you, and says, you matter, what you do matters, who you are matters. My voice caught slightly. Frank Dalton was that person for me. He taught me everything about engines, but more importantly, he taught me that my worth wasn't determined by someone else's opinion, that I could build something real if I was patient, disciplined, honest. Now, I get to be that person for kids like Tommy, and maybe Tommy will be that person for someone else someday. And that's how we change things, not with big dramatic gestures, but with small, consistent acts of seeing people, believing in them, giving them chances. I looked directly at Denise. Someone once told me that friends show up, that showing up is how you change lives. So tonight, I'm asking you to show up. Support this scholarship fund. Support these kids. See them. Believe in them. Give them chances. Because somewhere in this city, there's a kid who thinks they're nothing, who thinks they don't matter, who thinks they don't belong. And they're wrong. Thank you. I stepped away from the podium. The room was silent for a heartbeat. Then, applause. Not polite applause, real applause. People standing. I made my way back to the table. Denise's eyes were wet. That was perfect, she whispered. I just told the truth. Exactly. After the gala, Denise and I walked through downtown. The city lights reflected off wet pavement. Spring rain had just stopped. You changed the room tonight, she said. I just talked. No, you connected. You made people see what you see. That's a gift, Marcus. We walked in silence for a while. Can I tell you something? I asked. Of course. 6 months ago, I thought my life was ending. Thought everything I'd built was gone. Thought I'd be bitter and alone forever. And now? Now I realize it wasn't ending. It was beginning. Everything I went through, the humiliation, the divorce, the pain, it pushed me to become who I was supposed to be all along. Who's that? Someone who doesn't hide, someone who builds, someone who shows up. I stopped walking, looked at her. Someone who's ready to let good people in. Denise smiled. That sounds like a good person to be. Yeah, it does. We started walking again. Marcus? Yeah? I'm really glad Frank invited you to that barbecue. I'm really glad you came to coffee. I'm really glad you let me be your friend. Me too. Because you're one of the best people I know. And you deserve to know that. I didn't have words, so I just took her hand, squeezed it once. She squeezed back. And we walked through the city, two people who'd found exactly what they needed by not looking for it. At all. A week later, I was closing up the shop when a black Mercedes pulled up outside. My stomach tightened before I even saw who it was. Eleanor stepped out. She looked thinner, tired. Her hair was shorter, professional, but severe. She stood by her car for a moment like she was gathering courage. Then she walked to the door. I met her outside. Marcus, Eleanor, I know I shouldn't be here. I know you probably don't want to see me, but I needed to tell you something. What? I saw your speech from the gala. Someone posted it online. It went viral. Almost 1 million views. I hadn't known that, hadn't even thought to check. I watched it 3 times, she continued, and each time I realized something new about how badly I failed you, how little I actually knew you, how much I took from you without ever giving anything real back. Eleanor, please, let me finish. She took a breath. I told myself I was doing you a favor, letting you into my world, giving you opportunities. But the truth is, you never needed my world. You had your own, and I was too blind to see it. Why are you here? Because I needed you to know that I see it now. I see what I lost, what I threw away, and I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. I looked at this woman, this stranger who used to be my wife. Eleanor, I forgive you. She blinked. You do? Yeah. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace, and holding on to anger doesn't give me that. Do you think. Could we ever. No. I said it gently but firmly. That door is closed. For both of us. She nodded slowly. I understand. I hope you find what you're looking for. I really do. I hope you learn to see people for who they are instead of who you want them to be. I'm trying. Good. She looked at the shop, at the sign with my name, at the life I'd built without her. You really did it. Built something real. Yeah, I did. I'm proud of you. For what it's worth. It's worth something. Just not what you think. She smiled. Sad, final. Goodbye, Marcus. Goodbye, Eleanor. She got in her car, drove away. This time, I knew I'd never see her again, and I was okay with that. That night, I called Denise. Hey, she answered. What's up? Eleanor came by the shop today. Oh, how was that? Final. Peaceful. Over. How do you feel? Free. Completely free. Good. Denise? Yeah? You want to come over this weekend? I'm making dinner. Nothing fancy, just dinner. With a friend. She was quiet for a moment. Then, I'd love that. Good. Saturday, 7? Perfect. See you then. Marcus? Yeah? I'm really happy for you, for where you are, who you're becoming. Me too. I hung up, looked around my small apartment, at the secondhand furniture, at the simple life I'd built, and I smiled. 3 months later, Tommy graduated with his GED. I was there, front row, cheering louder than anyone. Afterward, he ran up to me, diploma in hand, eyes bright. I did it, boss. I actually did it. Never doubted you for a second. Yeah, you did, he grinned. First day, you thought I'd quit by lunch. Fair, but you proved me wrong. His grandmother walked over, tears streaming down her face. She hugged me tight. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for seeing him. He made it easy? She pulled back. No, he made it hard, but you stayed anyway. That's the difference. Tommy looked between us. So, about that job offer? I smiled. You still want it? Are you kidding? I want my own bay, my own tools, my name on a uniform. Then it's yours. 20 hours a week to start. We'll go from there. He whooped. Actually whooped. People stared. I didn't care. This was what mattered. This was what it was all about. That night, Denise and I sat on my apartment's small balcony, watching the city lights. We'd been doing this more often. Dinners, movies, long conversations about everything and nothing. It wasn't dating. Not officially, but it was something. Something real. Something easy. Something right. Tommy's going to be great, she said. He already is. You know what I mean? Yeah, I do. She leaned her head on my shoulder, comfortable, natural. Marcus? I'm really glad you're in my life. I turned to look at her, at this woman who'd shown up when I needed someone most, who'd stayed without agenda, who'd become essential without me even noticing. Denise, I need to tell you something. Okay. I'm not ready for anything serious. Not yet. It's only been 9 months since the divorce, and I'm still figuring out who I am outside of all that. I know. But I also need you to know that you matter to me, that these months with you they've been everything. And when I am ready, if you're still, she kissed me, soft, brief, perfect. I'm not going anywhere, she said. Take your time, figure yourself out, build your shop, teach your kids. I'll be here, as a friend, as more, as whatever you need. You're sure? Marcus, I've watched you rebuild yourself from nothing. I'm not going to rush you through the last part. She smiled. Besides, I kind of like where we are, getting to know each other slowly, honestly, without performance. Me too. We sat in comfortable silence, her head on my shoulder, my arm around her waist, and I realized something. I'd won. Not the way Eleanor thought, not with revenge or money or public vindication. I'd won by becoming myself, by building something real, by letting good people in. I'd won by refusing to be small, by choosing dignity over drama, by walking away from everything that didn't serve me and toward everything that did. The divorce papers that seemed like an ending were actually a beginning. The humiliation that should have broken me actually freed me. The loss that could have destroyed me actually built me. A year after that party, that terrible, public, devastating party, I stood outside Hale Automotive at dawn. The shop was thriving, 3 full-time employees now. Tommy plus 2 other kids I'd found and trained. We had a waiting list. Customers who came because they trusted us, because we were honest, because we cared. My phone buzzed. Frank, happy birthday, son. I'd forgotten. Today was my birthday. 33. Me. Thanks, Frank. Frank. Any plans? Me. Just work. Maybe dinner later. Frank. With Denise? Me. Maybe. Frank. That's not a no. I smiled. Another text came through. Denise. Happy birthday. I made reservations at Rosie's for tonight. 7 p.m. No arguments. Me. I wasn't going to argue. Denise. Good, because I already ordered your cake. Me. What kind? Denise. You'll have to wait and see. I looked at my shop, at my business, at my life. 1 year ago, I stood in this exact spot and watched my marriage end in front of an audience. Now I stood here and felt nothing but gratitude. Gratitude for the lesson, for the pain that pushed me forward, for the loss that taught me what I really wanted. I walked inside, turned on the lights, started the coffee. Tommy arrived first, like always. Morning, boss. Happy birthday. Thanks, kid. Denise told me about dinner tonight. She made me promise not to tell you about the. He stopped. Never mind. About the what? Nothing. Forget I said anything. I laughed. You're terrible at keeping secrets. Yeah, I know. We got to work. The day passed in a blur of oil changes and brake jobs and tire rotations. Honest work. Good work. Work that mattered. At 6:30, I cleaned up, changed into clean clothes I now kept at the shop. Tommy watched me. You nervous? About dinner? No, why would I be? I don't know. You just seem different today. Different how? Happy? Like really happy. I thought about that. Yeah, I said finally. I am. Good. You deserve it, boss. So do you, kid. I drove to Rosie's, parked, walked inside. Denise sat at our usual table by the window. She wore a green dress, simple, beautiful. When she saw me, her whole face lit up, and in that moment, I knew. This was it. This was the life I was supposed to have. Not the big house, not the fancy parties, not the performance, just this. Real connections, honest work, simple joy, freedom. I sat down across from her. Happy birthday, she said. Thanks for remembering. Marcus, I remember everything about you. And she did. That was the difference. Eleanor never bothered to learn me. Denise couldn't help but see me. So, I said, about this cake you ordered. She smiled, mysterious. You'll see. We ordered dinner, talked about the day, about Tommy's progress, about the new kids starting next week, about everything and nothing. When the cake came, I laughed out loud. It was shaped like a wrench, chocolate, with Happy Birthday Marcus written in green icing. You're ridiculous, I said. You love it. I really do. We ate cake, drank coffee, watched the world outside, and when the bill came, Denise wouldn't let me pay. It's your birthday, she said. My treat. Denise. Besides, I'm celebrating too. What are we celebrating? You. Everything you've built, everything you've become. She reached across the table, took my hand. Everything you're going to be. I looked at our hands together, at this woman who'd shown up, who'd stayed, who'd believed. Denise? Yeah? I'm ready now, if you still want. Yes. She didn't even let me finish. Yes. Whatever you're asking. Yes. I smiled. I was going to ask if you wanted to make this official. Us. Then yes. Definitely yes. No pressure, no rush, just honest, real. That's all I ever wanted. We left Rosie's hand in hand, walked through the city, our city, the one we were building our lives in, and I realized something final. Eleanor didn't humiliate me that night a year ago. She freed me. She gave me the push I needed to stop being small, to stop hiding, to stop accepting less than I deserved. The divorce papers weren't an ending. They were permission. Permission to be myself, to build my own life, to choose my own happiness. And I chose this: the small apartment, the neighborhood shop, the good people, the honest work, the woman beside me who saw me without conditions. This life that was entirely, completely, beautifully mine. No performance, no pretense, no apologies, just freedom. And it was worth more than all of Eleanor's money ever could be. We reached my building, stood outside under the streetlights. You want to come up? I asked. I make pretty good coffee. I know, Denise said. I've had your coffee 100 times. So that's a yes? That's a yes. We went inside, and somewhere across town, in a house too big for one person, Eleanor sat alone with everything she'd always wanted, while I stood in my small apartment with everything I'd ever needed. The difference was clear. She had wealth, I had worth. She had status, I had substance. She had winning, I had living. And I wouldn't trade places for anything in the world. Not for money, not for status, not for anything. Because this simple, honest, real life was exactly where I was meant to be. Finally, completely, absolutely, home.